episode 27. We took a little break there for the last few weeks because I had another camping trip. We went camping at this place here in Seattle area called Camino Island. You're familiar
Huh?
with the Seattle area. There's, it's the Sound. There's a bunch of islands northwest of Seattle, the San Juans, Friday
Huh?
River, Camino Island. And we have this camping site that we go to often that is a bit risen over the beach, and it was beautiful. We saw orcas in the Sound. It was a nice 77 or so degrees. So not too hot, but hot enough to
Mhm.
feel like a camping trip. But the one thing that we experienced for the first time was a thunderstorm. There also happened to be a thunder swell that night. And it was an interesting experience and being in the tent. You can't see out of it in a thunderstorm. There's a lot of lightning, thunder, wind, and rain, but
Alright.
we ended up being all right.
Does the tent keep you dry enough?
It did. It was waterproof. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
I've seen some where, like, the water like, if you set up in a bad place, the floor starts to get soaked just because.
we are experienced enough to know that you need a tent footprint to make sure that there's a protection layer between the bottom
Got it.
ground. So yeah, our floor was not wet at all. We were
Mm,
dry, no leakage, and we woke up and it was just like the thunderstorm never happened because it was a beautiful day the next morning when we woke up.
yeah.
But there's some crazy pictures if you look online for last weekend's thunderstorm here in the Seattle area. There were some crazy pictures of lightning.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Okay. Looks like crazy weather all around the world.
it's crazy weather. But yeah, that was our last weekend, but we're back at it. So you want to sum up our stories for today?
Yeah, let's see. So what do we have? What's top of mind? So, on the docket today, more Boeing Starliner news. For everybody who doesn't keep track, we'll update a little bit on that. Meta and their virtual reality headsets. Another topic, maybe we'll talk a little about Apple too, because I think something's going on there. And then Tesla and Optimus. And I might sidetrack a little bit just recently on Boston Dynamics. And then, of course, the DNC, 4 days of DNC this week. And if we have time, maybe we'll chime in a little bit on that because it's the hot topic across everywhere. Even Fox News is enamored DNC. So
All right.
good.
Well, let's give a quick update on our two astronauts up at the International Space Station that got there with the Boeing Starliner. They're still up there. That's the TLDR, but NASA has not been comfortable with the Starliner capsule coming back down to Earth because of the helium leaks as well as the thruster issues that were identified. For what I understand, Boeing has said that it should be safe to come down, but NASA is not wanting to risk the astronaut's life. And given Bowie's reputation in the last 5 years here, I'm on NASA's side of
Yeah.
not trusting a decision like that, especially when lives are on the line. So the latest is that NASA's supposed to actually make a decision to return. So I guess a decision checkpoint this afternoon. So by the time you hear this recording, they probably would have already made the decision. But if they actually can't return, then they'll just be in a holding pattern again. And as a reminder, these astronauts went up 2 months ago. They were supposed to be on the International Space Station for 8 days. But because of the issues with the capsule, they've been on an extended trip for 2 months with no ETA of when to return. And there's been talks around SpaceX and Elon Musk saving the astronauts, but that actually wouldn't be able to happen until February when the next capsule is scheduled to get up there. So if NASA decides to keep them up there because of this, then it looks like their 8-day trip will turn into about an 8-month trip, which is pretty crazy if you think about that. So yeah, that's the thing. I think if SpaceX were to be called to save these astronauts, it'd be pretty damning for Boeing and kind of a hit to what's going on with them. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of why they're taking so long to evaluate this. I mean, it shouldn't take 2 months, right? But part of it is, like, if they do scrap it, then that pretty much ends Starliner right then and there, right? Because Boeing is probably not gonna wanna sink another 1 to $2 billion into this. They might be able to. I know NASA would prefer not to have NASA would prefer multiple, I guess, rocket ship providers, right? Versus if Boeing's out, then it's just SpaceX, maybe Blue Origin. Is it Blue Origin? Blue Origin, Bezos's space company. Maybe they can come save the day, but yeah, I can see why NASA's a little bit hesitant or why they've been trying to find a workaround. But in
Yeah.
the end, it's safety of the astronauts, right? And personally, if I was the astronaut, I'm like, "No, sorry, you're gonna send me down on SpaceX. I'm not taking that Starliner."
I heard that the contract for this with NASA and SpaceX and Boeing was that NASA paid Boeing a fixed contract of, I think,
Mm,
$4.2 billion, whereas SpaceX took it for half the price, I think
right.
$2.8 billion.
Yeah,
And so just seeing that difference in cost, yet
yeah.
the cheaper version was the winner was just very interesting to me.
But I've also seen commentary, just random commentary on YouTube and such that talks a little bit about kind of like that cost and how Elon pushes for or like cost save not necessarily cost savings, but like very simplified builds, right? So like, do you really need what was the example? It's like, do you really need 4 bolts to hold that in? Can you just use one?
Yeah.
So, there's trade-offs, right? It could be good and it could be bad. In this instance, it's worked out well, but if you think of like the Cybertruck, it's not worked well. um, because like Cybertruck, again, just an example. Um, like people have done like started like not tear downs, but like destruction downs. And a lot of things they call out, it's like the axles on the wheels are very thin. And it's like this truck is like however many tons and it's promoted as being off-road capable, yet they've skimped on like some of the most important components of the car. And so, it's just like one of those things where it's like, yes, startup mentality, very efficient, but anyways,
I think
just
on
side
one
comment.
side, you have startup mentality, efficient, go fast, break things.
Yeah.
And in the case of SpaceX, hopefully you're being a bit more judicious in the mentality. But then on the other
Hopefully.
side of the spectrum, to your point, and the point I want to make, on the other side of the spectrum, you have bloat, right? And you
Mm,
have all these bigger corporate companies, even government, who are just bloated and
yeah.
overspending or doing too much. And so the happy medium is always, in between, but not there's no one size that fits all. Every company does something different
Yeah.
and it's a cultural mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it goes into as company gets bigger, they're in business for longer, they become the dominant player and they just kind of like grow into being kind of like, "Oh, we've got to do this. We're fearful of this. This is how we've always done it." And so it's like a drag, right? Versus smaller companies. But anyways, it's the life cycle of a company.
Well, I am hoping that these astronauts can return home sooner than February because I'm sure they miss their families and I'm sure they did not want to be up there for this long. At the same time, I think they're probably enjoying it, but I hope they can come home soon. So we'll pay attention to the decision this afternoon and update you next week on it.
Yep.
While we're talking about Elon and SpaceX, the other story that we had mentioned was Optimus. Over the last week, this started making the news waves where Tesla posted a job post and they are hiring someone to help train Optimus. And so this role would be paid $48 an hour for roughly $100,000 a year. And the purpose of this rule is to actually mimic behaviors and movements so that you can train the Optimus AI models. In the job post, it says job candidates are required to be between 5'7" and 5'11" in height because they'll be wearing a motion capture suit and virtual reality headset while performing designated movements and actions based on project requirements. So that's an interesting job. Actually, if I was in the Bay Area, because you
Weird.
be there, I would probably apply for that job because that sounds pretty fun and cool to me. But the
Uh,
whole reason for this is if you think about the Tesla full self-driving technologies, the way that full self-driving and artificial intelligence models in general get smarter and learn what they need to learn and how they need to perform is by seeing real world simulations of events. So, for example, ChatGPT gets smarter by reading through large language data and understanding what's in that data so that it can return a response based on all that information that it's accumulated. And ChatGPT is looking at more than millions, trillions of text and data from since data was being stored on the internet, and that's why it's able to return such a great response. Tesla's full self-driving can drive itself, and even Waymo's self-driving can drive itself because it takes data from all the cars in its network and learns what is good behavior, what is bad behavior, what is expected behavior, improves itself, and then that's how it gets smart enough to drive itself. So similarly with Optimus, there's one way Tesla could do it. They could just launch off, like deliver all these simulation and sorry, there's one way Tesla could do it. They could get millions of people to wear these motion capture suits, but that's not a cost they want to spend right now. So instead, they're going to hire people to come in and wear these suits so that they can perform human actions, and Optimus can learn from that, thus improving and in the
yeah,
future being able to do whatever a human does motion wise.
yeah, yeah.
So as a little explainer of AI and how it all does what it does, that's what Tesla's doing.
It's interesting that they're using motion. Okay, so based off of the way AI training happens, like I get it. It's like I'm wondering, is this like the best? Is this the most optimum route in training their humanoid robot? And I guess what I was seeing, what I saw this week was Boston Dynamics put out a new video of their, I forget, what was it? What is their robot called?
Alex,
Atlas? Is it Atlas? Is
yeah.
it still Atlas? Yeah, of their electric Atlas doing push-ups. And so I just don't remember if Boston Dynamics uses, like, motion capture, or is it all, like, done programmatically on the motions and the movements? And so I just think it's interesting that the way that Tesla is doing Optimus is they're using it to mimic.
Hmm.
Like, you're having to have actual humans control it, right? Versus, like, you're programming it, like, this is how you move your fingers, and this is how you need arms. I
Well,
guess it's
they're
just
doing
another
both.
input format.
I think they're
Yeah,
doing both.
maybe.
Like, their baseline or how they got started was programming. And
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to go away from also programming, but I do think
yeah,
having the actual human layer on it is going to
yeah,
make it better.
yeah. So we'll see how it shapes up against the Atlas.
Yeah, because
So if you the way it's doing push-ups, it's like, wow, it's not just that it's doing push-ups. Well, it's doing push-ups, it looks very human-like, but it also shows, like, the range of motion that it's able to move all its joints and stuff. I guess it's because they had built new electric motors. So I'll be interested to see how Tesla tackles it. I just haven't seen Optimus move around much,
yeah,
so I'll be curious.
I was going to say what you were talking about earlier around, programmatic simulation. NVIDIA had talked about a lot about that during their events,
Mm.
remember, where
Oh,
part of
yeah,
the
that's
thing was
great.
these like simulated worlds that
Yeah,
train AI robots.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay.
that's an example of how to, I guess, complement or
Yeah.
supplementally do things. But I
Yeah.
think, as we know, the more data you have, the more informed decisions and the better you can be. So when it comes to these robots, yeah, all angles of data will be beneficial. And this human capture is another form of data.
I mean, it's not any worse than what was it? Amazon Amazon, what was that? What's the name of this? Amazon Go?
Yeah.
Right? You thought it was automated, but they actually had thousands of people behind the scenes, and so yeah, okay, so I can see it. Hire 1,000 people to train Optimus. Why not?
Or maybe they're testing a way to control robots, remotely versus an AI form.
Yeah, like a la Ready Player One.
Mhm.
Well, Ready Player One is virtual, but you could see how that's applicable. You could turn it into, like, controlling it.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Do you wanna summarize the meta?
Yes, Meta. Man, well, I guess you could have seen this coming. So Meta has apparently canceled their high-end Quest next gen high-end Quest virtual reality headset. So apparently there was a review with Zuck and whoever's leading now, kind of like Reality Labs, and they decided to scrap it. Which I'm actually not surprised because Zuck's been doing the rounds for the past month, and he's talked more about their mixed reality glasses instead. And so I feel like this is the pivot where they are not going full virtual reality, but going off the success of their kind of Ray-Ban glasses and pushing forward with a kind of like that mixed reality, which makes sense because it's just more. If you think about more daily life, right, where Meta plays, right, with Facebook, Instagram, they want it in a kind of like a daily interaction, which you don't really get with a virtual headset because you're stuck at home. But if, like, I was wearing my glasses going out into the world, I think that's kind of where their pivot is going towards now. But anyways, yeah, so that was one of the big things, which is interesting because Meta's next month is their conference. Their next month is their Connect AR conference is happening next month. So it'll be interested to see the updates on that and kind of how they talk about this new.
Yeah.
Well, I'm calling it a pivot. They haven't expressly talked about it, but
It makes
I
sense
don't
to pivot. I think there has been that rumor of Meta buying Ray-Ban. Have you heard of that rumor?
know. No, I haven't.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that speculation that it wouldn't make sense for Meta to buy Ray-Ban or the company that makes Ray-Ban.
Luxcata? Would they
Luxara.
really do that though? I mean, they'd end up owning 80% of the glasses market worldwide if Meta did that. It just kind of it sounds Snap is shaking in their boots right now if that happened.
I was gonna say I was looking up Snap because they had earnings, and I've been thinking about Snap lately because I've been a big Snap fan for a while, although they're kind of just
Really?
on the
Okay.
side there.
Yeah.
I mean, their shares plunged more than 20% after earnings because of weak guidance, but I feel like they're a sleeper, and not a sleeper in a way that they're gonna eventually dominate, right? More like a stock sleeper. And this is not financial advice. This is just our thoughts or my thoughts. But from a stock perspective, I think they're just a sleeper, meaning they could be acquired or they could be working on something that's just taking a long time. And at,
Yeah.
at some point, something's going to come out of it that's going to make the stock pop really, really high. But I
Mhm.
think it's more likely to be an acquisition target. But yeah, I mean, their stock is at $9.43 now. And if you look back into like before COVID, I mean, it
Like,
popped
no,
to
like,
yeah,
COVID high was like $83.
yeah.
Holy crap.
I was an investor in Snap for many years, and it just never moved.
Mm,
I got rid of
yeah,
it, like, during the whole COVID thing, crunch and downturn, and then
good move.
it popped to, like, $75, and I was like, "Darn it." But no, if you look at their overall historic price, it's been pretty it's been, like, pretty flat. but I think it's a long play, and so I think they're a sleeper.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it bottomed out like what, 750-ish, and so, you know, I don't know. There's a saying, right? Like there's like a stock can always keep falling,
Totally.
right? And,
Yeah.
but it's just a matter of risk reward at this point. It's like, okay, it could fall another what,
Yeah.
7, it's like 20%, or it could go back up to 16. It seems to oscillate. So
Yeah.
now it might be the right time to buy, and it'll go up to like 16,
Exactly.
sell, rinse, repeat.
So, yeah, like, I think I was gonna comment that, with Apple canning its high-end headset, with Meta canning its high-end nice headset, I think it's just continuing to give us the narrative that the world is not ready yet for these virtual reality headsets at
Yeah,
scale. And could be that it's because maybe the headset will never maybe the world will never be ready for headsets like this. And
yeah,
it needs to come to a place where it's in glasses form to really
maybe.
take off. That's my
Yeah,
hypothesis. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah. So we'll see what the future holds.
Scratch that.
This week, Jerome Powell said the time has come to cut rates. And so now that rates are going to be cut, we're going to start to see the doors opening up for money to start to be delivered to companies. And I think we're going to start going upward now in terms of company growth. And that's jobs, that's revenue, that's innovation, new startups. And so it'll be exciting times the next few years here as rates finally come down.
We shall see.
We shall
It's
see.
all banking on it's all banking on NVIDIA earnings next week, apparently. Apparently, NVIDIA earnings will either tank the market or it will send us to all-time highs. That's how
You
everybody's
want to
positioning.
you
I'm
want to do
like,
predictions?
it's like, I don't know. I'm probably gonna bet calls just because. Play it off of SPY though. I won't. I think the what is it? Volatility, not the implied whatever. What is it?
Implied volatility.
Yeah, the theta or whatever on NVIDIA options is just off the charts. I
I
can't think of the
think
word. I don't know why.
I see two scenarios. I don't think
Up or down?
I don't think Nvidia is going to pop high and go to new all-time highs after earnings. I think it's either going to just stay the same, meaning
Mhm.
what they deliver is what everyone expected, and
Yeah,
no one wants to sell their Nvidia stock.
yeah.
Or it'll be a sell the news event where, all right, everything's already priced in. Nvidia didn't tell us anything out of this world because their last few have
Mhm.
been out of this world.
Yeah.
So it'll be a bit of a sell. That's my prediction, but not financial advice. You can never. It's hard to predict the market and what the market's going to do and how they're going to react to earnings.
Yeah. I think it was I forget. There it was one of those earnings where I was kinda had that same thought. It's like, yeah, they'll just say whatever, or they came out, like, big, and that's when it sent the stock from, like, whatever, from, like, the 70s all the way well, 70s after stock split, but
Here's what I would be
we'll see.
watching though. You should also be watching AMD because they're going to be
Yeah, that might make
impacted by any
sense of
news
play.
that Nvidia delivers during earnings.
Make good sense of play. Or Dell.
Hmm. Yep.
Dell's Dell has been on a rocket ship too just because of NVIDIA since they're
Yeah.
the hardware provider. Or Supermicro. Man, who had ever thought Supermicro? Like, literally, back in the days, like 10, 20 years ago, it was just, like, boring. They made servers.
Yeah. All right.
Like, place our bets. Next week will be fun. Wednesday.
We shall see.
We shall see. Gotta place our bets.
All right. Let's close it out here with we have time to talk about the Democratic National Convention that happened this week. First of all, I'll say like, wow. it was heavy hitting and
Mhm.
put the Republican National Convention in its dust. I think, you know, I remember when the Republican National Convention happened, there was a lot of momentum on the Republican side. I felt like Trump like had a lot of momentum after that. People felt good about it. But the Democratic National Convention happened this week, and it was just such a different like
Yeah,
vibe and
yeah,
atmosphere and feeling of happiness
yeah.
that I think it left a huge impression on anyone who is remotely interested in what's going on with the presidential race. From what I hear, the last night of the DNC when Kamala spoke, I think the ratings they reached 21.4 million voters.
I think they averaged 20, yeah, 20-ish across all 4, like, for each day, which is more than the RNC.
Do you remember
Yeah.
what the RNC was?
It was slightly under, it was like 18.
18. Okay.
Yeah, it was about 8, approximately 18.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But they had a lot of star
but, no,
power.
was the Obamas, of course. I mean, that was
They're so
it
good.
almost, for those who liked the Obamas and their presidency, it was a bit nostalgia of like, wow, this is really what a presidential stature is like, right? Yeah, I kind of miss it. So it was nice. It was nice seeing them both up there.
Yeah, they're so good, and the thing about them is
They're very good speakers.
they're still pretty young, like, comparatively, right, to other politicians, and so they got
Yeah.
a ton of years ahead of them, and they are going to be a driving force of the Democratic Party for and politics in general for quite a while.
Yeah. And then I think to what you were saying, like when the RNC happened, people were excited about it, but then across TikTok, the memes and comparisons of like this is the RNC, this is the DNC, and it's like wow, okay, it was like such a stark difference
Yeah.
in just tone, the way it was presented, kind of like the message, right? And so it's like it's so funny. It's like when you see people, I'll just say Republicans commenting on the DNC, like, "She didn't talk about policy or anything that she was doing." It was all like feel good. I was like, "How's that any different than the RNC or what Trump talks about?" Right? It's like it's a very two-sided. But anyways, I think by the fourth day, people, I think well, not some, well, some Republicans, even Fox News acknowledged, yeah, the mission successful, like, they did what they needed to do.
Yeah.
It was really well. Yeah, it was exciting.
Yeah, my highlights I mean, quite honest, I watched a lot of it, mostly on YouTube, just highlights, and I fast forwarded or rewound the
Yeah,
parts I wanted to watch, but
yeah.
my biggest highlights and things I liked the most was, yes, the Obamas. I liked Oprah making
Oprah
her
was good?
yeah,
Yeah,
she's 70.
yeah. Really?
She looks
Oh, wow. Okay, I
40,
didn't know she was, like, 70 already.
but she was awesome, and I liked her statement where she said, "I'm a registered independent,
Mm,
but I'm here today to, you know,
yeah,
support Kamala and this
yeah.
movement." So that was amazing. Pete Buttigieg, he was
Yep.
awesome.
It
Like, I like
always great.
his opening statement was, "Most of you have know me now as from Fox
Yeah,
News,"
it
because
was
you
good.
haven't seen the clips. He's been on Fox News several times over the last month, and he just rips them
He's
apart.
always like, I don't know what it is about Fox News, it's like they always invite him and he always destroys them. It's just like, I don't know why they do it. It's like the most hilarious thing. They try to catch him, but he's always like gets the last laugh in every
Yeah,
single time. He's a great
and
speaker.
like
He's a great debater.
he's a great
Yeah.
he is a future president in my mind. Hillary Clinton was good to see. I mean, she has, you know, been pretty much out of the spotlight until now because she was pretty devastated when she lost against Trump, but
Yeah.
seeing her up there and who I really liked after the Obamas was Bill Clinton. He was hilarious, but also Bill Clinton, like, I was watching him give us such an eloquent speech and just be
Uh-huh.
very in tune with his, with
Yeah.
what he was saying in contrast to Biden, right? He's only you know, few years younger
Yeah.
than Biden, but
Right.
like Bill Clinton was, I was looking at Bill Clinton and I was telling myself, would I vote for Bill Clinton today if he was running for
Right.
president? And the answer is that no.
All right.
No, that's, correlated to thoughts about Biden because
Yeah.
Biden is just as old, but on a cognitive level, clearly cannot speak as eloquently as Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the last thing is I was hearing and listening to Bill Clinton and watching him, and I said, "Is this what I have in store for me when I'm in my 70s? Because if that's true, then that's awesome. Like I've got
Yeah.
a lot of years ahead of me
Yeah.
to feel mentally sound. Because I felt like Bill Clinton is old and he still looks like he doesn't look young, but he still looks like he acts young.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
So
didn't realize when
yeah,
he said he was 78. I was like, "Really? 78? Has it been that long?" But yeah, it's been 31 years since he was president.
yeah.
Um, I feel old.
So seventies aren't scary to me anymore. As long as we keep our
I
health
know,
up,
I
right? Like
yeah, I know,
exercise
I
and all
think
that.
that's yeah,
Uh,
I'm a little fearful, but
yeah. And then the other person, AOC, I like AOC. She
I guess he was
Alexandra
yeah,
Cortez, yeah. Yeah, those are my main people that I
mhm,
enjoyed watching, and obviously Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. Tim Walz, I think he's an interesting pick. I think he
yeah,
resonates with just your normal everyday person, which is
yeah,
beneficial. It's kinda
right.
goofy. Yeah, so
I mean,
it's
it's why
exciting.
he's on the ticket, right?
Yeah,
It's why he's on the ticket is to capture that normal, everyday, kinda like American. The other one that stood out to me too, it was very brief, but it was the Trump's former communications director. Is that who that was? And she posted up a screen of, her message
oh, the
to
text message,
Melania,
right?
the text message, and I thought, "Wow, that's amazing that she did that," right? And it's I don't know if people understand, like, the ramification of that "no"
Yeah,
that Melania tweeted back or that sent her back, right? And it's just crazy, it's insane.
yeah,
Anyways, that was one of the other standout was just, like, shock moments of, "Really?" She could have done something, but she chose not to, right? And she plays off, like, all this innocence and, like, I'm not part of it or whatever, but to have her actually say no in response to, like, something they could have put out there,
yeah,
help, like, pull back or mitigate, right? It's kinda shocking.
yeah, and obviously, the Trump campaign will probably say, "Oh, that was created in Photoshop," or "That's not real."
Yeah. Right.
The other stark difference that I had heard was at the DNC, you had all these former presidents and prominent Democrats speak,
Mhm.
and at the RNC, you had no former presidents or even
Yep.
like Mike Pence didn't speak. None of
Yep.
the Bushes weren't there.
Yep.
They didn't even attend. They didn't even attend.
Yep. Yep.
So it is
Nobody wants
hard.
their name associated with Trump.
What's that?
Nobody wants their name associated with Trump. Well, at least people who respect themselves.
Yeah, yeah. And I saw this clip of Trump responding to Kamala's speech, and maybe I'll put it in the B-roll, but it was just distasteful. The first thing he said was, "Did you see her?" And she started with, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Blah, 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 blah. I was like,
Yeah.
it's just distasteful. Like, there's
Yeah.
no need
Yeah.
to say those, like, mock her in that fashion.
I mean,
Uh,
that's what he does.
that's what he does.
That's what he does though, right? He's totally
Yeah,
well, it gives, late night television something to talk about.
yeah. So interesting presidential election coming up. Please go out and vote if you don't normally vote, you need to vote. And I'm invigorated.
Whoever whoever you wanna vote for, right? I mean,
Yeah, just vote.
it's it's like, I think that's one takeaway from the DNC. It's like everybody's voices counts. So go make sure your voice is heard, right? But part of it is res- respecting the other viewpoints, right? Nobody's necessarily wrong. It's just a approach things different. So
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, it's a democracy, right? And that's what makes America.
Well, interesting times, and well, this next couple months here will be roller coaster in terms of politics. So,
Yeah.
congratulations to the Democratic's National Convention. Congratulations to the Republican National Convention if you accomplished your goals as well. But I think the DNC hit it out of the park, so it was fun to watch. All right, Tony, let's wrap it up on that
All
note.
right. Episode 27.
Episode 27. And please like, subscribe, leave comments. You can hear us on Spotify, or you can watch us on YouTube, or even Apple Podcasts. And we will see you again next week.
See you next week.